Now, when we think of South Asia, the dominant form of the state in our part of the world has been the continental bureaucratic empire. And in this respect, there are several major empires that we can briefly touch upon as manifestations of such states. The first of these is the Mauryan Empire. And this Mauryan Empire exists roughly around 300 BC. It is very famous because you might have heard of Chandragupta Maurya or Ashoka. You may also have heard of the great Indian statesman and philosopher Kautilya. You might have heard of his work, the Arthashastra. And the Mauryan Empire, thanks to our knowledge of the Arthashastra, reveals a remarkably centralized, a remarkably regimented, and a remarkably bureaucratic polity. So when we think about the civil service structure of South Asia, when we think about the land tenure system of South Asia, when we even think about the prevalence of caste-based villages in South Asia, the Mauryan Empire actually provides us with a very basic template for how governance begins to move in a direction of bureaucratic authoritarianism. Then after that, we have the Gupta Empire, and we have the Sultanate of Delhi, and we have the Mughal Empire. And the Mughal Empire in particular is another great bureaucratic state. It has a dominant class of service nobility known as the mansabdars. These mansabdars are organized into a military cum personal hierarchy of different ranks culminating in the royal household. The mansabdars are responsible for all of the various affairs of state. They are responsible for overseeing the collection of land revenue, for the maintenance of the royal armies, for the dealings with the local zamindars and tribes that fall under the authority of the Mughal Empire. And this system is remarkably effective in terms of concentrating resources and power in the hands of the royal household when that royal household is strong. So in South Asia, till the British advent, the dominant form of the state that we experience is that of a continental bureaucratic state. Now, when the British conquer the subcontinent, they introduce a variant of the state of laws into South Asia. So the British Indian state that emerges tries to graft certain principles taken from Britain's own historical experience of governance and introduces these into South Asia. So while British India is a bureaucratic and highly authoritarian state, it also enacts various reforms that attempt to change the way that governance is organized in South Asia. So when we think about the major changes that are brought about as a result of British institution building in South Asia, the first of these is that the state ceases to be the personal estate of the ruler. A clear distinction is drawn between public and private property, and one might even argue that the British go too far in terms of protecting the property rights as they see them, particularly of landed elites. The second thing that happens is that the state becomes substantively secular. This is especially the case after 1858, but is also an evidence in the earlier part of the state's existence. So, by the secularism of the British Indian state, what we essentially mean is that there is a non-denominational loyalty of the members of the government to the state. So the state is not oriented towards any particular religion or any particular religious worldview. And at the same time, what it means is that the various communities that live under British rule also are seen as subjects, equal subjects in some measure, of the imperial state. The third key thing is that the British gradually subordinate the military to the civilian arm of the government. And this, of course, is a major change because prior to these reforms, all of the earlier Indian empires were essentially ruled by their military. And this is something which begins to change under British rule, and the idea of civilian supremacy, the idea that the military should be subordinate to civilian authority, albeit colonial and bureaucratic authority, not popular authority at that stage, starts to take root. Then, the fourth thing that the British do is that they introduce a merit-based criteria for recruitment to the public services. So the servants of the state are no longer personal appointees or personal servants of the ruler. They are appointed by some kind of administrative, technical process that tests at least some of them for academic knowledge, legal knowledge, or other skills that they might need to have in order to fulfill their public role. This is applied primarily to the higher and middle ranks of the bureaucracy. At the lower levels, at the support levels, the bureaucracy still remains overwhelmingly patronage-oriented. Then, the fifth key thing is the introduction of various autonomous institutions like public services commissions, like the judiciary, like various political parties that mobilize Indians for various social and political demands. All of this starts to take shape, especially during the last 50-60 years of British rule. Now, this of course is not happening because the British are inherently enlightened or humane rulers. This is happening because, as a result of the limited modernization that occurs under British rule, a westernized elite starts to emerge. And that westernized elite, fed upon a diet of Western enlightenment and liberal thought, starts to demand things for South Asia that the British have in their own country. And one of the big demands that is increasingly made is that of self-government. So when you look at the various parties that are contending for popular space and influence during the last decades of British rule, what you see is that, of course, there is a lot of political conflict between these parties, but these parties are also very much committed to the idea of self-government through a parliamentary system. And that is an idea that takes firm roots in the political consciousness of South Asia as a result of British rule. So by the time the British leave the subcontinent, we have been left with a hybrid, if you will, of the state of laws and the continental bureaucratic empire. So both India and Pakistan have a chance to become legal democracies after they gain independence.